Welcome to It's Personal, Finance Canada. I'm Christine Conway.
And I'm Cameron Conway.
And this podcast is a very personal look at personal finance in Canada. Welcome to It's Personal Finance Canada. I'm Christine Conway, here with Cameron Conway. And if you're in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, or the Yukon, feel free to find us at braunfinancial.com. Last week, we addressed yet another of a growing number of surveys that are basically telling us that life is getting more expensive. Fundamental things like groceries, our bills, they are stressing us out, and they are stressing us out disproportionately if we find ourselves being a little bit younger in age. It's harder and harder, it seems, to find a dollar and keep that dollar. And we've noticed this trend, it showed up in the survey as well, that people are feeling that their long-term goals like retirement are being compromised and deferred because they are so consumed with trying to survive now.
Yeah, so kind of on the tail of that, we're going to talk about the D word today. We're going to talk about debt, how to manage it, what to do with it, when it is bad, and the odd time it could actually be very good for you.
Absolutely. Debt is not a dirty word. There are different kinds of debt, and they have to be treated as such. They have to be treated as what they are. Of course, there's consumer debt, which is basically credit card debt. It can be secured, unsecured lines of credits. It's a debt that has extended our lifestyle. So it's a debt that has given us access to money that lets us live larger than we would normally be able to live today on our current paycheck.
Yeah, it's anything from like your Visa or your MasterCard, or it could be whatever line of credit or pseudo credit card you can get from like a appliance store, a furniture store, a grocery store. It's just all these different avenues where you can receive $1 today and give back $40 later.
That's right. But there are good debts too. And the kind of debt that's good is if it has the ability to grow wealth over time. So if the underlying asset that you're purchasing will appreciate over time, and I think time is the big test. And the type of asset, of course, is as well. If it's a real estate where it could appreciate in value over time, if it's a business where you can put in some sweat equity in addition to money and grow wealth that way, or even just investments in the markets, right? In the stock market, in the bond market, where you're expecting an appreciation of your investment over time. This is where debts can be good. They still have to be controlled, but they can be incredible leverage points to help people get into the next stage of life.
Yeah, this is like legitimate stuff like a business or a house. This isn't like NFTs or whatever is the newest version of Beanie Babies or something else like that. This is like something that will have a very good probability of paying back the debt and more at the end.
Exactly. And debt is really bad, or it gets bad, like I said, when we're using that debt to extend our lifestyle. When we've got not just our income coming in, but we're looking at our available credit card balance or available line of credit balance and being like, oh, I don't have to worry about it. This is a tomorrow problem. I can spend now, pay later. That mentality is what can get people into trouble. So this is where we are prompted as financial planners to have people do a simple exercise. We even put simple in the name. We call it the simple budget. And it's very much a listing of net income, your expenses, fixed, variable, and annual one-time expenses.
Oh, for a second, I thought you were going to say that they had to come and confess all of their financial sins to you.
No, the confession of financial sins, that's a different product offering, service offering that we're not going to talk about today. Oh my goodness, we joke all the time. We may as well be therapists, unqualified, of course, all the stuff that you hear in our office. But that is fine. Nothing is as tightly tied to emotion as money, right? It opens up or closes doors of possibility all the time. It is so fundamental in relationship management and really your ability to live the life that you want. So let's go back to this concept of the simple budget. Let's assume that you find yourself in the growing category of people that are stressed, trying to pay their bills, trying to find that next dollar, and that are worried that they're not going to be able to hit their long-term goals because they need all of that money now. This is where we have to start with a reality check. If your income doesn't cover your fixed expenses, your variable expenses that are within a reason, that could be a lifestyle problem. It could be that you have built a lifestyle that is now stuck to a certain point in that it will keep compounding the stress and the need for credit, the need for extra coming in to fill these gaps. It's basically a situation that is not sustainable over time, and it is creating more stress and creating more struggle than life was intended to have. People that find themselves in this category usually end up seeking out consumer proposals or even bankruptcy if there has been this compounding of difference between what is needed to come in and what is needed to go out the door. And like I said, this is a tough one to talk about because since basic expenses are so high now, those margins for a lot of people have gotten a lot smaller than they were in the past. But let's say you went through your own simple budget exercise and you have a surplus. And let's say that there's also some wiggle room in your variable expenses within that range of what's reasonable for your spending. This is where we can actually create an opportunity. And this is where we have to kind of change our thinking a little bit to have a short-term, long-term impact decision conversation.
Yeah, so we have to kind of start to come to grips of where we are with our money, where we are with our debt, what are kind of those triggers that make us overly reliant on their credit cards. It could just be that the basic necessities are just too expensive, or the impulse to grab things is too much, or you tried playing the points game and got burned in the end.
Yeah, and you can kind of sum it up as yesterday's enjoyment, yesterday's impulse. It created a problem today. So yesterday's enjoyment can turn into today's pain. So now we're in a position where we have to reverse that. And a lot of people come to the acceptance that in order to do so, there might be some short-term pain created, or in terms of sacrifice or deprivation, if the outcome is better, people have to make that decision for themselves if they think it's worth it.
Yeah, it is that sudden realization that you are now future you in the present, now blaming your past self.
Oh no, the place that we all will be eventually that we didn't realize was going to happen today and not tomorrow. Or something like that. But yes, this is the point where you have to make a decision around what happens next. Does life stay the same? Or does it change? And with these external pressures that we keep talking about, there is outside momentum pushing us to make these changes because we need the dollars that our debt payments are taking away from us. So we then see the money that's currently going towards our debt as our opportunity cost. And if we can free up that money again, how much better could life be? How close could we get to living and not needing credit anymore? Or how close could we get to actually hitting and fulfilling some of our really important goals, or even longer term goals like our own retirement? So first things first, we have to talk about our own endurance. If this is a sprint, you need to know two things. You need to know, how long do I need to run at this thing to get my desired result? And secondly, how long can I actually handle sprinting before I get tired and I want to quit? If you know that you can only handle shorter increments, then it might be so important for you to break a big goal like debt repayment into smaller targets that are achievable so that you can get a win and have something that you can find success with.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like how big a mall was, like from point 1 to point 2 in the mall, your favorite stores in between. How fast can you run past those favorite stores and get to the end?
No, well, you know what? I guess that is one strategy where you don't go in the store, you run past them as fast as you can. You'd probably turn a couple heads in that process there as well. No, this sprint is a pure metaphor. It's this short-term pain for long-term gain mentality of you're now in a position where the money going towards your debt is hurting your ability to either live today or achieve your goals, and you feel the pressure and you want to change. So what we're trying to do is identify key areas that we'll get into in just a few minutes that can help you make this transition into finding more money that you can then apply to this big goal. But like I was just saying, Cam, we have to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success and not for failure. And this is so important for two reasons.
I think that's because your failure is the credit card company's success.
Oh, no, it kind of is. You know what? And if you think about it like that, absolutely, your pain is their gain, right? They are profiting off of your inability to pay this off today or pay this off tomorrow. And that is a terrible, terrible feeling. I mean, if you look at the breakdown of interest to principal repayments on a credit card, they are clearly putting themselves first every single time. And we can't blame them. They're usually publicly traded, large corporations, but we have to take back our control. But let's navigate back for a second to this idea that we have to set ourselves up for success. There's a couple of reasons that we want to do this, and they are so important that I wanted to go over them here. So if you succeed, even at accomplishing a small target, you will feel like you had a win. And when you have that win, your confidence will start to increase. So not only did you achieve that goal, and you'll want that feeling of achieving that goal again, you'll now believe that you're the kind of person that can master this task, that can master their money, that can make the progress that is needed to have this success. And if you find yourself in the position where you can keep compounding your wins over time, you'll start to believe that you're the kind of person that wins, the kind of person that can develop the capabilities that they need to succeed in different areas. And that can be huge for self-confidence, self-image, and the willingness to take the risks that you need to take in a lot of cases to succeed in life, whether that's a promotion or succeeding in business, things like that. They're very, very transferable skills that can start with something as simple as a budgeting exercise.
Yes. And now at this point, we have to get really practical to figure out how to kind of mitigate this debt damage that we are dealing with and come up with, like Christine said, find the little things you can achieve to kind of help you snowball into a change of lifestyle, a change in intention, and a change in a goal to kind of shed off some of this mounting debt.
Yeah, and I think if we're talking about getting practical, we need to address right off the bat that this will be painful. Anything worth doing, what's that saying? Anything worth doing is going to be hard. Hard goals are worthy goals, that kind of thing. It will require some work, some sacrifice, blood, sweat, and tears, all of that stuff. So the best starting point is to give yourself a strong reason why you're doing this. Your body will resist change. It will resist pain. And like I said, by nature, this is going to be difficult. So you have to convince yourself that the outcome, the end result is going to be worth this short-term temporary pain. So a reason why that you could give yourself could be along the lines of answering a question. And the question could be something along the lines of, I need to get out of this debt because. And you might say something like, oh man, I need more money to live better now. I want to give my kids those sports activities they're interested in.
Well, I always think more along the lines of the less money I have to spend in interest, the more money I can spend on things I actually want to spend money on.
Perfect. That's exactly it. Things like more money will reduce my money stress.
I dug this hole. I'm going to dig my way out of it.
It might improve my relationship with my partner if they see me proactively taking ownership and responsibility for my spending patterns. And for myself personally, maybe my reason is I just want to believe that I can. I want that feeling of accomplishment. I want to believe that I can understand my money enough and do the things needed to make these changes. And you're right, Cam, not wasting money to interest payments is huge motivation, I think, for lots of us. But the bottom line here is the reason has to make you feel something. And the reason it has to make you feel something is because we are, by nature, inert. We are not going to move unless there's enough motivation to do so. It brings me to a quote that I saw recently this last week when I was reading. It was attributed to Henry Cloud, and it said, "We change our behavior when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. Consequences give us the pain that motivates us to change." End quote. And I felt that in my soul, and I believe it to be true. We typically will not change unless that pain, that pressure, that internal is enough to motivate us stepping into a period that we know is going to be hard and we know is going to be difficult to be able to do it.
Yeah, this is the big difference, kind of being intentional and reactionary. It's one thing to just kind of walk across the street slowly when there's no car, but when that 18-wheeler is zooming, you go a lot faster because if you stay still, there's a problem. So you have to kind of take charge and kind of get off of what is comfortable, what is the quick way, what is the easy way, because a lot of the time it's those decisions to do things kind of like quick and easy, and now it helps you get into the debt position in the first place if you kind of have like a lifestyle spending issue.
Yeah, and telling yourself that this is a sprint, telling yourself that this is temporary, this is not a permanent change of lifestyle behavior unless you decide you want it to be after doing it for a while. This is easier for you to palate, right? It's easier for you to handle and process. I can handle anything for a short period of time that maybe I wouldn't be interested in over the long term. But let's continue with our practical advice. So this is where we get that pen, we get that piece of paper, we put it on our computer, on our Excel spreadsheets, whatever we're doing, we write out every debt, dollar amounts, interest rates, amount of current payments. And the next thing I want you to do is pull those credit card statements that show you the exact dollar amount of your payment going to interest versus going to principal. A lot of these credit card companies these days will tell you how many months or years it'll take you to get out of debt. And that's because, like we said earlier in the show, they take their cut first. So we need to take our control and reverse that trend. So this is where it's difficult. You're listing out every single debt, usually non-mortgage debt. So this is typically consumer debt that we're focusing on here, that we want to address soon, that we want to address now, that we're not okay with keeping for the next year, 2 years, 5 years, indefinitely. This is us saying we want a plan going forward to address this.
Yeah, the trap a lot of people who aren't as financially savvy fall into, they just look at what a minimum payment is on their credit card and they expect it to help them pay off the credit card. When really it's just like that bare minimum amount the credit card company wants, but it could only be interest or a very, very, very small part of your principal. So it just kind of keeps the wheel turning over and over. A lot of people kind of wake up from this when they actually do the math and figure out how many months or years or decades what you think is a nominal amount on your credit card could actually take to pay off, and then the staggering amount of interest it charged.
Well, and going back to that concept, when you buy something on credit, on your credit card, unless you're paying it off before the end of the month or before that next interest hit happens, you're actually, even if you bought something on sale, it might not be on sale anymore. It might be plus 20%. And that'll compound over whatever period of time you hold that debt. This is why debt like credit cards or lines of credit are open-ended. The company wins when you take as long as possible. And minimum payments, I believe, are kind of just there to make people feel like they're doing something, right? Like, yes, the company wants their interest now, and that's part of it. But that little smidgen of principal in there, I mean, you feel like you're taking action, but it's not productive action because it doesn't get you to your end goal of paying this thing off quickly. It gets you to their end goal of having this for a longer period of time than desired.
Yeah, so let's kind of like use an example that like this is a big one. So it's like Black Friday, it's a Boxing Day, it's some sort of summer clearance and you want a TV, and then your local electronics store puts a big like 25% off sticker on it. You think, oh wow, I'm going to save 25%, and you throw it on your credit card and you wait 4 weeks and you didn't pay anything on it. So all of a sudden you're hit with a 20% interest rate charge, and then you pay off like let's say a quarter of the TV and it's another 20% interest charge. So instead of getting that great deal of getting that TV for 25% off, you have now overpaid the retail price on that TV because you dragged out your credit card payments for even just 2 months, and it just compounds over and over and over again.
Well, and it can help some people when they're trying to change their behavior around consumer purchases that can be deferred to think exactly like that, to think with the mentality of what will my total cost all in, all interest in be of this product? And is it worth it? Is it worth it to me to have that TV now, to enjoy that TV now, if it's going to end up costing 10 or 20% over normal retail, depending, of course, on your timeline and your ability to repay?
Yeah, and a lot of people kind of keep forgetting that a lot of these great deals are cyclical. They happen every 3 to 4 times a year, pretty much the same time. So stock your cash away and get ready for it and actually benefit from the deal and don't pay 1 or 2 times more than the retail price was for all that.
Yeah, cash is king, eh? Well, I mean, we don't think, this is not us knocking credit cards. We use them all the time. We use them for our regular purchases.
No, these are a couple of like the most common traps that people fall into, though.
Well, that's right. And credit cards, when you can pay them off on time, are a great tool. But like you said, it's when you get trapped in this cycle. This is when it becomes an issue. So let's go back to our practical steps. We have debt. We want to get out. Let's create a timeline. And that timeline is going to need a few inputs. It's going to need you deciding how much money, in addition to what you're doing already, you can apply to this debt repayment goal. And it's going to require you to list out these debts that you've now got all on paper. You're going to organize them now. Highest interest rate debt first. I personally hate that smallest debt first thing when people are trying to get that win on the snowball that you hear about so frequently. Mathematically, that does not make sense to me. That being said, I think you can give yourself an internal target of like my first 5,000 of debt repaid or whatever it might be for you. If you view all of your debt in the same category, it only makes logical sense to pay off the high interest rate debt first, because now you're freeing up more money for you to continue to pursue that goal. And the idea behind the traditional snowball was to keep reinvesting the money that gets freed up once you've paid off a debt, paid off a debt, paid off a debt, so that you're continuing to take every excess dollar that you can find and apply it to this goal. So now that we know that, now that we've written out our debts, we've put them in order, we've decided how much we can apply to these debts, you're going to have to get a financial calculator or something that does an interest calculation in there, but it will help you figure out your timeline of how long it will take you to get out of this debt, to get out of the hole, per se.
Yeah, just Google like a time value of money calculator and you should be able to track something down. You'll just punch in interest rate and you'll like your starting rate, your future value. It'll prompt you for all that stuff and it'll give you a really good window on how all this actually works and compounds.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no shortage of tools online that are free and readily available, right, to do these easy calculations for you. But a little help when you're dealing with compounding is definitely required. So let's say you've done this and the timeline is too long. You're like, I cannot sprint for that long. Even if I break this into little increments, I'm going to find myself in this position over and over and over again. If that's you, that brings us to this traditional advice again. And I mean, I hate this because we say it all the time, but it's really what it is. It's earn more, spend less. So people in that earn more category, it would work best for someone who, let's say, can do overtime or has a side hustle already or just has an easy way to get a bit of extra money. Yes, it will take your time. Yes, there will be an element of sacrifice, but you can, if you want to, get extra money. And the caveat here is all extra money must go towards that debt. If that's not you and you said, you know what, Christine, I can't easily increase my take-home pay. The other side of the equation is the spend less. And this one is rough, especially if you feel like you've gone over your budget over and over. You've done what we call the hard look challenge, which is where you look at your variable, you look at all of your spending elements and you say, where can I cut, even if it's temporarily? If you've done that already, if you haven't, it's a good challenge. If you've done it already, the next level up is what we call the no spend challenge. And this is where you take a period of time. Maybe it's a week, maybe it's 2 weeks, maybe it's a month. And you challenge yourself to only spend on essentials during that period of time and to take everything that's left at the end of the period and apply it to your goal. Now, this can be hugely eye-opening for people who don't realize that they're just maybe bleeding a little bit of money here and there. It kind of jumps out of the wallet throughout the days. There's all these little transition points where it's easy to kind of pull out a credit card, pull out your debit card, pull out your cash, and just do simple transactions. Maybe I just need a snack or a quick coffee or whatever it is. I'm at the mall. Oh, this would be easy to buy right now. Oh, this is on sale. I think I want this. But the no spend challenge is reducing life to its essence and saying, what is the extra that I do not need? Because I'm deciding that I want the end goal of being debt-free more than I want this temporary satisfaction of extra stuff. And that's, like I said, a decision point you'll have to come to yourself. But the no spend challenge can be an incredibly effective tool to show you where the money is going and how much you can get by doing maybe not a lot extra, but doing life with a bit more intention.
Yeah, and if you ever want some like real motivation on this, all you have to do is get in your car, get some garbage, go to your local garbage dump or transfer station, and just remind yourself that almost everything there had some value at that one point, was probably bought on credit at one point, involved lots of time and effort put together at one point, and people actually spent money on, and now it's there. So hopefully that can motivate you with the no spend challenge.
Well, and I think that as our values shift in life and as we go through these exercises of figuring out what is truly important to us, debt freedom does top a lot of people's lists. And I think that that is the intrinsic core of, I don't want to be beholden to anyone else. I want the freedom to make whatever decision I need to make about my job, my career. If I want to quit and do something else, debt freedom is a perfect place to be, right? Because then you might have that levity to make that decision. Also, like we said at the very beginning, if life is getting more expensive, this is a great way to find extra money. Yes, it costs you more initially, but there will be an end point. And that's why the timeline matters so much, because we are looking forward to the day when the debt is totally gone. And now all this extra that you found, all of this extra that you have had going towards regular payments is now yours to apply to your next goal. And that is an incredibly powerful position to be in.
Yeah, like I said before, the most important part here is just being conscious, being intentional, and just taking charge in order to get out of debt, to either consolidate it, to pay off things in the right order, to try and scrimp away certain parts of your budget to kind of help you succeed in this area. And then like Christine was saying, even after the debt is gone, you just don't let that money that you kind of set aside for it run away. Use that to invest and get ready for retirement. So you don't go through this whole cycle again in retirement with a lower income coming in. So it's time to kind of learn the lesson now, learn the life skill today, so you'll be set for decades to come.
Absolutely. And we don't look at debt as, oh, you know what, this was bad decisions, this was wrong. We are not taught this stuff. This is the perfect opportunity now for you to decide for yourself what you want your life to be and to start seeing the possibilities of what can be in the future. And I think when someone goes through this kind of a debt cleanse and does things like the no spend challenge and is really, really tight on their budget for a while, that is a lesson that will stick with you, because the pain of that is something you're not going to want to experience again. So you will have learned through experience that this is not the land I want to live in. There is a much better place for me on the other side of this, when I can take this new margin, this new cash flow that's been created, and live the lifestyle I want. So if you'd like to have conversations like this, and if you're in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, or the Yukon, feel free to find us at Braun Financial, braunfinancial.com. I hope today's episode gave you some hope. You're not alone. We're all in this together. And until next time, take care.
And all the best. Yeah, it's time to get kind of practical and really hands-on, because it was you getting practical that it kind of helped.
You got yourself into this mess.
You dug this hole for yourself.
You can get out of this mess. Yeah, exactly. That's not kind or compassionate. We are kind and compassionate at Braun Financial, braunfinancial.com.